Good morning and welcome to our final class, not final. In this session, we do these classes all the time. So welcome to Shin Buddhism 101 third class, and welcome to you at home as well. And we're happy to see you today. Let us ring the bell. Naman labs, naman labs, naman labs. I also thought it was appropriate to light a candle. I thought I brought my clicker over. For the terrible things that are happening in Ukraine right now. So we want to honor all of those who have passed and offer some end to ignorance and wisdom and compassion to all of those involved in this conflict. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. So lighting a candle to Kannon Bodhisattva is an offering of sharing our compassion and doing what we can with our hearts to send out compassion to those who are truly suffering right now. So we do send lots of compassion. So this morning we are going to delve into Shin Buddhist living. So what does that mean? Oh, before that, if anyone had any questions on the ocean book, if you had a burning question that you wanted answered. Yes, Susan.
Not so much on the book, but I was communicating with a friend in Japan. I said Shin, and she referred to it as Shinto.
Different. So we shorten it to Shin Buddhism, shortened from Jodo Shinshu. Jodo means the Western Pure Land, and Shin means the truth or path. So Jodo Shinshu is the teachings of Shinron Shoni from 12th century Japan. So Shinto is the esoteric or the earth-based religion in Japan that they really connect with the kami-sama, the gods. Everything, it's like pantheistic. Every living thing, including rocks, has divine energy, it's alive. It's alive with God-like energy. So, yeah, it's kind of like our Native American, it's similar to our Native American earth-based beliefs here. Shintoism, so Buddhism and Shintoism meld beautifully. Yeah, but it is different. Okay. Any other questions about the ocean book? No? Alrighty, we will delve right in. Let us begin. Come on. I want to start at the beginning. Wow. Okay, of course it's misbehaving. What is a nenju? Anyone have a guess? You might have heard the word. Joyce, you might know. Or Lisa?
I know that it's the 100
Yes.
representation of
It's a symbol. Nenju is actually, nen means mindfulness, and ju are beads. So mindfulness beads. So when you maybe come up to our altar here, and if you don't have your own, you're welcome to borrow one of our nenju. And Jodo Shinshu nenju are a little different than the 108 beads of a mala. So you might have heard, I should have brought a mala out, but it's the longer beaded necklace or bracelet Jodo Shinshu Nenju are a little different because we have these 3 beads here that symbolize the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the community. So Buddha, the awakened one, Dharma, Buddha's teachings, and Sangha, really all of the community of sentient beings. We don't narrow it down to only Buddhists can do this. No, everybody can. So, and then it's in an endless circle because of the infinite wisdom and compassion that unites us all. So a Nenju is very important in our tradition because of the mindfulness aspect of it. So I wear a traveler Nenju, like just a little bit tighter fitting Nenju, or some people wrap malas around their wrists, or, it's just a mindfulness aspect that's always with you, wherever you go. So I'm going to try to get this to work, but come on. Okay. Here we go. So whether we have this at our home altar or at the temple or wherever we go in our life, it's just a mindfulness aspect of keeping that close to your heart and your mind, your consciousness. Yes?
When we go up and offer incense, are you saying that
You could borrow, yes, and I could demonstrate what that looks like. So when you come up to the altar to offer incense, you bow to the Buddha of infinite wisdom and compassion. And then if you don't have your own Nenju, you can borrow one and you take it in your hand, and then I'm going to go over this, what Gasho is. But you encircle your hands in Gasho, and you bow. And then you would, from our little incense holders, we usually have 2 pieces of charcoal, lit charcoal here, and you offer incense that way. And then you bow again. And you want to just take your time with it and really feel that connection with gratitude. It's very important too. So it's not just an empty ritual, it's taking the time to feel the connection to infinite wisdom and compassion, a wonderful teacher. So, and yes, you can borrow our Nenju. So, yes, Michael.
Do you have to be a member to get one of those?
No. Oh, no. We have them down in our store, downstairs. Yeah, we're very open here. You don't have to be a member and jump through lots of hoops. It's all open to everyone. So, yep. So a little bit about what is this Gasho? In Japanese, we call it Gasho. And it's uniting you and the infinite wisdom and compassion right over your heart. And then we usually encircle the Nenju with that. But yes, it's just a physical embodiment of, you've probably heard of the word Namaste. So in yoga, Namaste is I recognize the divine or the light in you. My light recognizes and honors your light. In Shin Buddhism, we say the Buddha nature in me, because we believe everybody has Buddha nature. The Buddha nature in me bows and honors to the Buddha nature in you. And that's why when we greet people, normally we bow. I'm kind of jumping ahead because this Prezis is not behaving. So, and that's because we're a Japanese Buddhist temple. So there are, believe it or not, some degrees of bowage. So a light bow is to appear like somebody who, a friend. The deeper the bow, the more honorific the relationship is to that person. So like if Otani Sensei came to the temple, which he does every several years, this is the bow. because he is our temple master and descendant of Shinron Shoni. So the bow is very deep, almost like 90 degrees. So it just depends. So it's a bow from your hips, not a head dip. It's different. Connect your hips, and yeah. It might seem strange, but that's part of our tradition. That's what we do. And during COVID, it was really great because usually Americans are handshakers or huggers, and I'm a big hugger, but bowing that's our tradition, and it kept everything good. We could still practice our tradition and still greet people, but do it in a safer way. And if you have any questions while I'm doing the presentation, please raise your hand. I'm happy to answer as we go. And I kind of covered the offering incense, but I'll go a little deeper into that. So our altar here is called O Shoko. O is an honorific part of the Shoko. Shoko is incense offering altar. And so when you offer incense, it's always in gratitude and thankfulness for the teachings and the support and the infinite wisdom and compassion that we're receiving constantly, that we're usually not aware of. But it's saying thank you for all of that. That's kind of the least we could do. And then when we offer incense, it's a gift. So it's that kind of thanking rather than asking. So it's with that sort of thought in mind. In some traditions, in the long ago past, it's also been seen as sort of a cleansing, purification with the incense smoke. And that's a totally fine thing. If you want to, that's fine. You can believe that too. It's not a focus of our tradition to think of the incense as a total cleansing thing. We do, however, think of the transient nature of the incense. So you start with a particle. Our incense traditionally is usually cedar, very fine powdered cedar, and so it's little particles, but they transform into the beautiful smoke that not only fills this space, but it goes out to the whole world. So that symbol of transience and impermanence and things, so that's an important symbolic piece of offering incense. And then we have, in Japanese, called a butsudan is more of a home altar. This is a very grand home altar, and in Japan, many homes have a grand home altar where they offer incense every day and maybe some food or water, and they sit and chant either the Shoshinge or some chant that they feel connected to the Buddha. So here, because this is a temple, we don't call this the butsudan. The butsudans are kind of more smaller home altars, and you can create your own butsudan at home. You just need a little elevated place for the Buddha or an important teacher in your life, and a candle, so infinite light, and flowers or a plant, infinite life. So those are symbolic things that you would put on your home altar. And then you want to create that sacred space in your home where you can sit quietly and meditate or chant or just be. So it's important to have that carved out space. This one is a traditional Shin Buddhist butsudan. See if I can. So there's a Mida Buddha. I'm not going to be able to do it. So these scrolls are the 10-syllable I take refuge in the infinite light and wisdom of the universe. Namu Amida Butsu. We call it the Nen Butsu. Nen, mindfulness, Bu, Buddha, Tsu, like the calling the name. So we have that. Then you can see these beautiful hanging ornaments represent the golden jeweled, light emanating trees that might be found in the Pure Land, based on the Pure Land Sutra. And we're studying that in book group, the Meditation Sutra. So it usually has a roof, and it has devas, or like heavenly beings floating and protecting, and they're all usually very beautiful. These things down here are oil lamps, so that's your candle, your light. So, I should have worn my kesa this morning. Anyway, kesa. Kesa is a scrap of cloth that if you are ordained, you have a special kesa, or it's kind of evolved. Here, maybe I can go forward. Yeah. Can you see that? From monks' robes. So traditional orange or brown monks' robes. So this sort of sash evolved from the monks' robes, which have evolved. So then the piece of cloth over a black robe. Different traditions have different symbols of a robe. So in Jodo Shinshu, we usually wear a black robe with our kesa, colored kesa over it. And at RBC, when you become a member, you receive a purple membership kesa that we've made for you. If you become lay ordained, so if Reverend Otani from our home temple comes from Tokyo, he can give you a Dharma name, and it's symbolically shave your head, and you receive a lay ordination kesa, which means just a more sincere step on the Buddhist path. So they've come here 3 times, I believe, in the last 10 years to offer that to our members, anyone who wants to do that. So different traditions have different kesa, but most Buddhist traditions do have either robes or cloth or something that just symbolizes that, yes, I'm a Buddhist walking this path. Annual services, so important services that we offer here at RBC. Our temple master, we've talked about Dr. Daigon Lee Matsunaga and his wife, Dr. Reverend Alicia Matsunaga, and that's our memorial altar over there, and some of their cremains are actually on that altar, and that's where we also keep little placards of those who have passed, and we've honored them by a service here. We keep their little placard there on the altar. And so we honor Dr. Matsunaga in February. He passed away in 2010 on February 25th. So the month of February, we usually have a special service for him and the Founders Dinner. And always want to remember him, and we feel his presence here every day, but we want to officially honor him every February. Then we have twice a year the equinox services we call O Higan, and Higan means the other shore. So O, honorific uplifting of the other shore. So the other shore means right now we live in this relative world, a material world of samsara, where we're kind of in the oceans of births and deaths and that. The other shore is transcending all that and having no obstacles to enlightenment. So reaching that other shore, could be a mind state where it's enlightenment, basically, where you've transcended the life of births and deaths, and you're not worried about anything anymore. Wouldn't that be nice? So, Ohigan, we celebrate that in the spring, so around March 20th, and then in the fall, in September. It also coincides with the equinox balance of light and dark. So Buddhism is very much studies the middle way aspect of living your life. So our world manifests that at the equinox. So in March and September, we celebrate that balance between light and dark, of day and night. And then we have Obon. Obon is honoring our ancestors. And in Japan, traditionally that is done in July or August, where they have big celebrations with taiko drums and lots of food and drink, and they go to their ancestors' graves and they do lots of cleaning and honoring. They light beautiful lanterns, and so they just feel the presence of their ancestors more deeply. And they take the time to do that, so that there's like a mass migration of human movement in Japan in July and August, where they're going home to honor their deceased loved ones. In the past, here at RBC, since Halloween is in October, we kind of moved Obon to October, but now we're thinking we're going to move it back to August, because last summer we had a huge Obon Moon Rabbit celebration, where our Moon Rabbit is our Pay What You Can community cafe, and we had taiko drums and dancing and kimonos and food, and it was just wonderful. So we did it more traditionally like they do in Japan. October can be a little cold, maybe, iffy here, so we might just move that right back to August. So, and then Ho'onko, Thanksgiving, but not American Thanksgiving. It's gratitude to our founder, Shinron Shoni. And his month he passed away was right around November 28th, which, funny enough, corresponds with our Thanksgiving here. It all kind of ties together really nicely, but that is especially geared towards gratitude towards our founder, Shinran. Bodhi Day, I'm sure you've heard of that. Bodhi means enlightenment, and the Buddha was enlightened under a Bodhi tree in Nepal, and that happened, we think, from the sutras and based on the descriptions of the trees and the flowers and the weather in December-ish. So we say December 8th is Bodhi Day, and we usually have a special service honoring enlightenment and the Buddha's enlightenment, and we wouldn't be sitting here if the Buddha had not been enlightened. So we definitely honor that and just bring that awareness to everyone's minds. And then to wrap up the year, we have a multi-faith New Year's Eve service, and it's a midnight service, and we have lots of faith traditions represented. We have singing and drumming and lots of positive, uplifting spirits. So we have that here at the temple. And we hope to have a bigger celebration this year. Last year we did open it up to the public, and we had about 50 people in attendance, which is pretty good. And usually it's a packed house with about 200 people here. So I'm glad that didn't happen, actually. But no, it's a great way to bring in the new year. So we need a lot of just being together and sending out positive energy to our community and everyone. Any questions so far? No? So our core tradition in Jodo Shinshu, other than gathering Sangha together in whatever ways we can creatively gather people, because Sangha is like one of our most important focuses, being together, all beings being together. We enjoy chanting, And we see chanting as a way to connect our Buddha nature with many others. It's an active form of meditation. And what we chant matters. We're pretty open here, but basically our core chant is the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namandabu, Namu Amida Butsu, or we shorten it. The Japanese love to shorten things, so it ends up being Namandabs, Namu Amida Butsu, and so we always Gasho, and it's calling the name of Amida Buddha, the infinite wisdom and compassion. So that is if you only chant that, that is wonderful. But we do have our Shoshinge chant. Is there a book? Yes. So if you've come to a Sunday service, you've gotten a taste of chanting the Shoshinge. And the Shoshinge was written by Shinran Shoni, our founder, over 800 years ago. And it is chanted in Japanese from right to left in vertical columns. And it looks daunting at first, but if you come to chanting practice on Tuesdays at 6, it really starts to become second nature, just part of you. We also chant many other chants in Tibetan and Sanskrit and English, so it's just open and welcoming, and chanting's fun. And you don't have to be a great singer. Chanting's not singing. You just chant kind of from your belly. So it's not like your vocal cords matter less than the sound you generate from your belly, that vibration that comes up and out, and it just feels really good to chant with others and sort of feel that unity coming through. So there are different chants, the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, or gathas are like shorter chants. And then wasan in the Shoshinge book, towards the back of the book, those are a little bit different wording. And then the Shoshinge. And in our chanting book, there's a little translation at the bottom. It gives you a hint about what it's about, but it still might be a little confusing. And the most important thing, I know we want to know what we're chanting intellectually, probably. We would feel more comfortable chanting it if we kind of know what it's about, so we understand that. But the most important thing is just to feel the vibration, the goodness of it, and just let that come through you. That is the most important thing. Over time, you'll begin to understand it. And so Americans tend to be very impatient, and they want to know it right now. What does it mean? Not so important. Let that go. This is not a weird cult thing that, no. It's all good. Yes, Susan. Mm-hmm.
That's just striking me. I gave birth to my 2 kids in Berkeley, and I took a lot of prenatal yoga, and the woman leader got us to chant every week.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, when you give birth, who cares about the hospital, you chant. And it's amazing. And
Right.
I didn't care about the hospital.
No, you would not care about any of that
It was amazing.
infrastructure stuff. You care about what's happening right in that moment.
It's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is very powerful. So it's kind of a letting go experience where you just let go of any delusions of control that we might think we have in our life, and just feeling that wisdom and compassion. We have rites of passage that we offer, different ceremonies that we offer here at RBC, or we can go to you. So we love to offer baby blessings and house or apartment or altar blessings. We'll come to your home and we chant the Shoshinge and light incense and walk around the outside of your home. Then we walk through the interior and every room to bless it. And then we usually stay and we have tea together. It's very nice to just meet you in your home and have that blessing and then share that special time together. We offer, you can become a member of Reno Buddhist Center at any time during the year by just making an appointment with Reverend Matthew or I to have tea and talk about what does membership mean. And really it means that you want to step onto this Buddhist path and be part of the Sangha, the community together. So there aren't a lot of requirements. It's good if you take the classes, but it's not required. You can take them later and, just participate, really bringing your own energy into the Sangha and participate where you can. The more you participate, the more you'll get out of being a member here. But we do have formal membership ceremonies twice a year, and we do that at our Bodhi Day service and at our Buddha's birthday service. We should have mentioned that. Buddha's birthday, Hana Matsuri. Hana is flowers, Matsuri is festival. So usually it's a moving target. In the spring, we feel like when it's more spring here, we want to offer that. So usually in May, everyone will bring flowers, and we recreate Lumbini Park where the Buddha was born. Flowers everywhere. So there's lots of flowers at the altar. We bathe the baby Buddha in sweet tea, because that's the legend that sweet tea fell and bathed the baby Buddha when he was born. And then we have a big luncheon after. So that'll be coming up this May. Let's see. So that's the other time that we offer the formal membership, where we give you a nenju and a kesa and a name badge, and the Sangha sees you and welcomes you. So it's really beautiful and uplifting. We have, in Buddhism, we see the transitioning from this body to kind of more the karmic consciousness stream of life, where you move onward, transition, death, as just a natural part of life. And so we talk about it very openly and naturally, and it is a beautiful part of life to be present with. So we offer a pillow service, which could be either just before the moment of transition, or during, or right after. It just all depends on who calls us at what time and, the timing of that. But it's not a requirement we must be there right before death, because, that could be impossible. But try to be there soon. We offer memorial services where you can gather family and friends here and have a formal memorial service. We have a class, usually we offer that once a year, on designing your own memorial service, which can be kind of upsetting because we're Americans and we want to avoid talking about death at all costs, but it's really actually very peaceful and reassuring, because it gives you peace of mind that these are my wishes and this is what I'd like, and it gives your family much peace of mind because they know this is what you want, and then they can work with us to make all that happen for you. So if you fill out the packet, we usually keep a copy here, and then we can help honor your wishes. So we also offer a cremation service where if your wishes are to be cremated, then the priest would be with you and any family member that wishes in the actual retort where the cremation happens, and we chant sutras as the body goes in and starts that process. It's quite powerful, but it is really just a a powerful experience because the dissolution of the body, the spirit's already gone, but the body is now finding peace and kind of going back to the earth through the ash and through the smoke and the evaporation and everything that comes out. It's just a natural part of what happens. So it's good to be there to honor that and to recognize that. Let's see. So how do we link the Four Noble Truths that we talked about in the last class and the Eightfold Path? And we link the Four Noble Truths in a very cool, special way through the Nembutsu. So, na, that syllable na, beings can live in abiding joy, but they often do not. Mu, mu. The cause of joyless life is our wanting things and ideas, clinging, attaching, not wanting things to change. Amida. If we remove the cause, the constant wanting, joy can flow in. And Butsu, the way, the path, to live without the wanting, has 8 aspects. So, if you think of the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, in this way that combines the Four Noble Truths, it's really wonderful. It just kind of links it all together. So it gives it more depth and meaning to think of the Four Noble Truths as you chant Namu Amida Butsu. Namandabu, Namandabu. And then Reverend Matthew thought it was funny to create a bumper sticker. Just say it. Just say it. Namu Amida Butsu. It's not hard. Well, it could be a little tongue twisty, but just say it. It's easy. So the Eightfold Path and Jodo Shinshu, how do we meld those together? And we usually say instead of right understanding and right thought and right concentration, we say just right. So not right versus wrong, not that judgy kind of perspective. It's more of a middle way, changing perspective, because the middle way is very dynamic. You have to be aware of where you are and where your life is and where you're flowing, and can you flow in the middle a little bit more than too extreme or too lax or too depressed or too anxious or what, flow in the middle. It's hard, but having that just right focus can help ease into the middle way and less extreme. So, just right understanding, the first of the Eightfold Paths. What is just right understanding? So, trusting in the great compassion of the universe, of the teachings of Amida Buddha, and Kannon Bodhisattva is always flanking Amida Buddha, offering infinite compassion for yourself and for all beings. So trusting that, having that understanding that there is compassion out there for us all, and you can take that into your heart and manifest that yourself. Accepting our limitations. So we are not perfect beings. We probably won't be perfect beings. It's very difficult. I mean, maybe you could become a monk on a mountaintop and just focus on only your spiritual life, but most of us have to live in this world and have jobs and families and relationships and good times and bad times and navigate all of that. So there are going to be some limitations. And we believe just having that, embracing them, accepting them. You're okay, just as you are. That's our big slogan here. You're okay, just as you are. When you walk through the door, you are accepted just as you are. So, accept your limitations. See the interdependence. So we're all connected. We're not these little solitary little beings going through life alone. We're all interconnected to all sentient beings and the plant world and the animal world and the insect world and to the Ukrainians and to everything. We're all interconnected. So opening up to that idea, that interdependence, really can kind of open you up to more compassion and more understanding. Life is a bumpy road, but fundamentally good. And we believe that. Life is a bumpy road, like that shopping cart you get stuck with sometimes with the wheel that goes woggle, 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 and you're going through the store going bump, bump, bump. That's life sometimes. It's a bumpy road, but it's still fundamentally good if you approach it that way with your understanding, your view. That I think most sentient beings have this Buddha nature, that goodness. So if you can sort of tap into that in yourself and see that in others, you're going to be better off. So sometimes it's hard, especially these days, but just right thought or intention. So our thoughts create our reality. So trying to be aware of where your mind is. What are you thinking? That leads to your intention. So cultivating positive thoughts. Our brains are unfortunately wired for survival and to remember trauma and negative experiences more strongly than positive, wonderful, beautiful experiences. But we can consciously, intentionally make new neural pathways, if you work on it, to more positive thoughts. Let go of accept, not judge, and let go of the negative, traumatic experiences and cultivate more positivity and just more mindful awareness in your everyday life of what is beautiful, what gives you joy. Be in that mode more than in the negative mode, where usually we don't have control over much anyway. So, and studying the teachings of the Buddha. So whatever that looks like for you, coming to the temple, reading a book, talking with a Dharma friend, talking with a friend who's not Buddhist, but sharing your ideas with them and having a good exchange. It takes time and patience, but it's well worth it. So that also helps cultivate positive thoughts that shape your reality. Your speech, just right speech, using kind speech, using kind words for yourself, for your inner dialogue, which we all have, for others. So, words of kindness. Listen more. So, instead of talking over somebody, maybe don't talk and maybe listen a little more. So you can truly understand where that person's coming from. And then the just right speech would be more appropriate, more helpful, more compassionate. So a little more listening and a little less talking is usually a good thing. And talking about positive things. That's been very difficult these last 2 years, very. But I think trying to, I like to just go out in nature and take a walk and see, the birds don't know what's going on. Just watch the birds. They're happy. I take walks with our 2 sweet little beagles. They don't know all the crap that's going on. They just want to love, just watch the plants grow. Be in nature, breathe, let nature absorb your angst, and be with those you love, and share the positive observations that you see around you. And there are so many. We live in such a beautiful place. We are so lucky to live here. It is such a beautiful place. And live in that. Just right action. So your actions evolve from your thoughts and your intentions, and then you actively, and your speech, which takes your body or your mind into some decision-making action that you do. And action in Buddhism is karma. So karma also involves intention, because you have to have that spark of an intention that results in action, and then karma. So karma is your actual action that you do, that you take. So whatever that is, and you are cultivating that action yourself. You want to have some level of self-control. So instead of flipping the guy off who cut you off on the road or swearing at them, take a breath. Just take a breath. They're probably having a bad day. It wasn't about you. It's usually never about you. They don't even know you. So a little bit of self-control, that takes just mindfulness of where you are and how you're feeling to have that measure of self-control. But we can all do that. We have the capacity to control ourselves a little bit. Practice generosity, or dana. Dana is the first precept in Buddhism. It means giving freely without any strings attached, without expecting anything in return, just giving. And that feels really good, to practice generosity, helping somebody without even expecting a thank you. It's beautiful. So if we do that, our actions, that's cultivating really positive, wholesome. We like to use the words wholesome and unwholesome for good and bad. Good and bad, it has too many layers of judgment in it. So wholesome and unwholesome. So helping others, giving dana, whatever that looks like, without expecting anything in return, that is very wholesome karma. And being guided by the 5 precepts. What are those? I will practice love. So we like to affirm the positive here, but we can also include what we might refrain from. So I will practice love in my life at all possible moments. I refrain from killing, and killing any sentient being, even an ant. I will practice generosity, or dana. I refrain from stealing. Don't take what's not yours. I will practice contentment, finding a settled peace. I refrain from sensual indulgence. So indulging in things too much that are just, that's not the middle way. So something that clouds your sensual experience, all your senses. You don't want to indulge too much, because it's just an extreme that you'll have to recover from later. So contentment, finding peace. I will practice mindful speech. I refrain from harmful speech. So don't practice libel and slander. And you won't have many friends if you use harmful speech. So don't. I will practice mindful consumption. I refrain from intoxicants and substances that harm myself, society, and the environment. So if you're involved in overdoing the intoxicants or the substances that cloud your judgment, you're not able to make wise decisions. You're not able to really have wholesome thoughts, and that just leads you down the path of not being able to practice the Eightfold Path. So it doesn't mean don't ever, but be careful. Some people don't ever. That's okay. Don't ever.
I recently read, there's a spiritual Buddhist reading about mindful consumption, being mindful about our media consumption.
Yes, media for sure. Yep, it's very toxic these days. All forms of media, and you don't know what you can trust. So be careful about that. And look at or expose yourself to things that you know you can trust. So, yes, definitely. Just right livelihood. So, avoiding work that defiles or harms yourself or others or other beings. Work and spiritual practices are connected. So connect those dots for yourself. Have your work, whatever that is, have that spiritual component for you. You know, that brings it, elevates it to higher meaning, if you can. Live the Dharma at work and cultivate gratefulness and reconciliation. I'm not really sure about the reconciliation part. Maybe just keeping in mind with either your nenju or just in mind, mindfulness practice of how is my work cultivating gratitude and moving away from ignorance and just having positive effects on you and others. You know, just having that be part of your mindset as you work brings you more joy. Yes, Joyce?
It's interesting that you put that picture up there because
Mm-hmm.
I took the page out of the BBK calendar from 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and the sutra underneath that picture says, help others without being aware of helping others. So I try to think of being more like the honeybee who collects the pollen,
Right.
sacks on his legs,
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile is pollinating the flowers so that they can procreate and make fruit, completely oblivious to this good work
That's right.
that is being done by him or her who runs the bees. But
Right. Bees are a perfect example of that because they are so busy
and so
pollinating and so helpful and creating all the fruits and vegetables for us to consume. So,
and so unaware
yeah,
of what
unaware, just beautiful dana in nature, and I'm sure it happens all around us. So, yeah, living in gratitude for all of the interconnectedness that we have, and the more aware we are, the better we are. Effort, just right effort. So sometimes your life requires a lot of effort, but you want to find a middle way balance of, because you don't want to burn out, but you don't want to be too lax and not try either. So there's the middle way of exerting yourself in just right effort, and that probably changes on a daily basis, but what is that? Just ask yourself every day, what is going to be my just right effort? What am I going to accomplish, and how much energy is that going to take? And try to find a good balance and make it meaningful to you and keep it positive. Some days are going to be harder than others. It just depends on what you need to deal with. But just right effort, because you can't run up the mountain every single day at full speed. You're going to burn out. So finding that balance and regularly taking refuge, just letting go. Letting go and taking refuge in the infinite wisdom and compassion of the universe that supports you every day. Taking the time to do that. Just like the little snail going up Mount Fuji. It's going to take a long time, but going slowly, you'll get there. It's okay. We're not in a hurry. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. It's okay. Just right mindfulness. So really, mindfulness is infused in all of these paths because you can't do anything without mindfulness. Awareness, self-reflection, taking breaths, taking time. Namu Amida Butsu, deep hearing, listening. It all takes time and mindfulness and awareness. And being aware of where you are in all of this is very important so that you can be grounded and centered, be able to take care of yourself so that you can extend that to others when it's appropriate and when you can. So I know the mindfulness movement is very popular and big, and that's great. I mean, anything that brings mindfulness to our classrooms, to our prisons, to our daily life, to our practices, yoga, whatever that is, your own practices at home. It did originate in Buddhism, however. So we don't often get that credit, but it did start over 2,600 years ago with the Buddha, and beyond that with the Amida Buddha. So, and just right, we like the word quietude, the settling of the mind. Concentration to us seems a little bit too narrowing. You want to be open, but quiet, so that you can let things come in, flow in. So commit to understanding the Dharma for the sake of all beings, having an open mind to deeply hear and walk the Eightfold Path every day. So quietude is different from mindfulness because you're settling your mind, however that looks like for you. And you can find quietude through just sitting quietly, through breathing, through chanting, through taking walks, through gardening. Whatever resonates for you, it has to resonate for you. It has to be meaningful to you, whatever your quietude practice is, or it won't be meaningful. So whatever that looks like for you, just try to make that a daily practice, and it can be for 5 minutes. That's okay. Or 20 or half an hour. If you have more time, great. But it doesn't have to be arduous. Just finding a little space to cultivate quietude. Opens yourself up to deep hearing and mindfulness. So, reviewing the Four Noble Truths and the Nembutsu, the Namu Amida Butsu. Beings can live in abiding joy. The cause of a joyless life is the wanting and craving and clinging. Amida, if we remove that cause of constant wanting, joy can flow in. And Butsu, the way, the path, the Eightfold Path, this way to live, has 8 aspects. So, that is our Jodo Shinshu living. Has many aspects of mindfulness, Nenju, Gasho, respect, Buddha nature, and the Eightfold Path. So, any questions about Jodo Shinshu joyful living in the Buddhist way. Yes, Jeff. What do I do I chant. Chanting. Every day, chanting the Shoshinge. Or if I need to cultivate more compassion, I'll chant Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Just tapping into Kannon Bodhisattva or the Medicine Buddha. If I need more healing, or usually I'm thinking of others, so sending out that healing energy, chant the Medicine Buddha, chant. So yes, chanting is definitely my refuge. And walking in nature. I love to be out and enjoying this beautiful place we live in. And yoga. I love yoga. Yoga, the physical form of, that's a definite meditation, moving meditation, connecting your breath with the physical body, and also practicing Aikido. It's the way of harmony. It's a martial art. So the way of harmony and moving with others' energy. So it's all beautifully tied together. So we will now take a moment for a snack, a cup of tea, and a human comfort break, and then we'll move on to the next section. So please. Namandaps, namandaps, namandaps. We will now talk about Shinron Shoni. Who was Shinron Shoni? So, he is our lineage founder. There are many Buddhist lineages in existence, and we are on a Pure Land lineage, Pure Land Buddhism, focusing on the 3 Pure Land Sutras of Buddhism. And Shinron Shoni is specific in Pure Land Buddhism for originating in Japan. So we'll start at the beginning, and this is coincides Shinron's life with a little travel log of Reverend Matthew and I went to Japan a while back, and so these are actual pictures of not too long ago. I think it was 2017 when we took this pilgrimage trip, which was wonderful.
Did you do the spiritual pilgrimage? The multi-day, there's 2 spiritual pilgrimages in the world, honored by whatever. One is the Carmen Santiago in Spain.
I've heard of that, yeah.
And the other's in Japan.
I haven't, nope. This was a self-guided. We did this on our own, through our own lineage research, and just wanted to walk in it. But that sounds wonderful. It just, more meaningful, it comes alive if you actually go there and walk in the place where Shinran walked. So, Shinran was born in Hino, Japan, which is just a little outside of Kyoto. And this is a temple where his mother went to pray to have a good, healthy birth for Shinran. And that is another temple in the temple compound in Hino. Can you see, Karen? Okay. So, Japanese temples usually are quite traditional looking, with the shape of the roof, and the roof tiles are usually ceramic tile, and then lots of beautiful timbers are used, and the dark and the light being contrasted and stepping up into the hondo off the ground. Usually there's a gate that you walk through, symbolizing walking through the material world into the spiritual world. So this was a young priest who helped us, just told us some stories about this temple where Shinran's family attended before he was born. That is downtown Hino in 2017. So just outside of Kyoto. And this temple is in Kyoto, Shoreinin. Shoreinin is the temple where Shinran went with his uncle to become a priest. And he was 9 years old. And he had other brothers who, his family, it was a very difficult time in Japan in, 1173 was when Shinran was born. And that time there was a lot of war and famine and hardship. So very difficult time. Families kind of couldn't take care of all their children. They were split apart. Shinran's mother passed away, and his father worked at the shogun's court. So he was involved in a government position, but he couldn't take care of his children. So Shinran's uncle, Shinran said, I want to become a priest at the age of 9. So he was already had this awareness so he was a very special person. So he went to Shoreinin nearby. It has beautiful gardens. We spent a whole day there, walking in the gardens and meditating in the hall. And this was in March, so the snow had just melted, And there's like really old trees that they hold up with wooden stakes, like so the snow, that tree is probably like 800 years old or something. And they're just babying it along with posts so it doesn't get crushed in the snow. And they just care so much, so deeply for every living thing that they just want to preserve it. So this is somebody who is reading the translation of this statue. So that's a statue of Shinran when he was 9 years old. And his uncle took him to Shorening to become a monk. And it was in the middle of the night. And Shinran wanted to be ordained right then. And they're like, no, it's late. Let's wait till the morning. Shinran wasn't hearing it. He really was dedicated. He didn't want to wait 1 minute. So he wrote a poem. He said, wait until tomorrow. Cherry blossoms that are felt to last till the morrow. Night winds blow. So a 9-year-old wrote this beautiful poem on the transience of life. And those beautiful cherry blossoms might not be there tomorrow, so let's get me ordained. So they did. They were so impressed. That's too much to read, but that's about Shorening Temple. So they did ordain him that night. And he spent about 2 years at Shorening studying. And at the tender age of about 11, we think, he moved to the temple complex on the top of Mount Hiei. And Mount Hiei is a mountain that you can see from Kyoto. And so this is the Heian Shrine. This whole complex is a Shinto shrine. And that mountain is Mount Hiei in the back. So we took a bus up there. Some of us got car sick because it was like very windy. And all the way up to the top of the mountain, it's about a 2-hour slow ride up there. And Heizan and Ryakuji. So that's the temple complex. And you're literally up in the clouds, so high. So that's the main temple there. And there are many temples. There was still snow on the ground. It was really cold. And we toured the top. So in Shinran's time, the main Buddhist religion was Tendai. So they were Tendai monks. So it was much more strict practice. So and life up there was very difficult. You had to study many hours of the day, you had to clean many hours of the day, you had to keep the grounds clean, you chanted, you just were busy, probably 20 hours a day and slept very little. So this is the Amida-do. Do is temple, Amida-do temple, enshrines the Buddha Amida, built in 1937. So it was there when Shinran was there, but temples back then, they used to heat with fire, so the temples burned down a lot. So this particular temple that you saw here was built in 1937. Yes, Chelsea? Those are Buddhist flags. So the colorful flags here are the flags of Buddhism. And then this one is called a Norin, is specifically has the mon. Mon are, you might have seen them in samurai movies, or usually they're a symbol of the family. So each Japanese family has a mon. And so this would be the mon for the temple. And we have our own Norin at RBC, and we have RBC's that mon of the wisteria. So that symbolizes our lineage of Jodo Shinshu. The wisteria is on a purple flag, just like that. And we put that out during big celebrations here, like Buddha's Enlightenment Day and Hanamatsuri and Honko and things like that. So Shinran lived this difficult life for about 20 years. He was very, very devoted to it. He studied all the sutras he could and was eventually put in charge of one of the temples and taught classes and just did the upkeep of everything at one of the temples on the mountain. And over time, he still had what he called snakes and scorpions in his mind. He just could not become settled and peaceful, and he just got very frustrated. He also saw a lot of hypocrisy and corruption and things like that. You're at the top of the mountain, but some monks would sneak down to the Kyoto and have a whole other family life down there and then come back up to the mountain. Yeah, so he couldn't stand that. So he decided to, after 20 years, leave the mountain, go down to Kyoto, and he was going to meditate at this particular temple called Rokakudo for 100 days. He was just going to sit and meditate and just try to do what the Buddha did, Shakyamuni Buddha. I'm not leaving this place until I reach enlightenment. Well, Rokakudo, Roku, 6-sided temple. So the roof, so this is the temple now. I'm sure it burned down many times, but it has a beautiful tree, and then it's in the middle of modern Kyoto with the high-rises. It's pretty interesting looking at the contrast of these modern buildings with the beautiful old temple sandwiched. You can even take a glass elevator above the Starbucks and have a very beautiful picture of Rokakudo. So you can see there's many six-sidednesses about it. I mean, the roof is amazing architecture. And Buddhist flags here surrounding the main entrance to Rokakudo. So Shinran stayed at this temple and meditated for, as the story goes, about 95 days until a vision of Kannon Bodhisattva came to him. And she told Shinran, "You're okay just as you are. You want to live a life with a partner, somebody you love." He really did want to be married and have a wife and children. He wanted that life. And he also wanted to become enlightened and find peace and teach others. She said, "Go find Honen." Honen was a teacher of Jodo. Not Jodo Shinshu, Jodo, the Western Pure Land. So Honen was a teacher in Kyoto. So after 95 days and this very amazing vision that Shinran had, gotta take a break and talk about Jizo Bodhisattva. Jizo Bodhisattva is the Bodhisattva of children, of babies who were lost, of travelers, of firefighters, and of animals. So covers a lot. But you see lots of Jizos at many, many temples, and families come and make these Jizo offerings to the temple. And Jizo usually wears a little bib and a hat that's handmade normally. Some Jizos we've seen have moss. They're so old, they have moss growing out of their little hats, and they're so sweet and sad. So it's very poignant that families donate all these Jizos there to honor a lost one. So Shinran went to Honen-in, just a little ways away from Rokakudo in Kyoto. And that's a little hand washing station. I don't think they use it anymore, though. That's an old one, but it's in the garden. So Reverend Matthew and I, there we go, went to Honen-in. We walked what they call the Philosopher's Path. So it was maybe a 2-mile walk, and beautiful, to this. You enter the gate first. Beautiful old rice thatched roof where you're stepping from samsara, this world, into the sacred world of Amida Buddha. And that's the Buddha's footprints with the Dharma wheel there. And these camellias. So Honen-in is famous for camellia trees. Ancient, they're on their national registry of ancient camellia trees at this temple. So we stayed most of the day here and talked with a priest about Honen. And Honen also spent many years on Mount Hiei, as Shinran did. He was, Shinran at this time would have been about 35, and Honen was about 75. So he'd been on the path many more years than Shinran. But his form of Buddhism, the Western Pure Land, Jodo Shu, opened it up for everyone. So it wasn't just, Mount Hiei was only for monks. And you couldn't really learn about Buddhism unless maybe you were part of the imperial court or very well educated. The common person, the fisherman, the farmer, the shop worker could not have access to Buddhism. Honen felt that was very wrong. He also thought that Buddhists could be married. Instead of fighting the physical human urges and lying about it and being hypocritical, like many of the monks were doing, okay, let's relax about it a little more. We'll be natural about it. So we follow more of the natural way. We need each other. We need love. We need companionship. We need physical comfort. Find that special person and have a family. So Shinran spent about 5 years or so with Honen. He became his best student. He was the sutra transcriber. He just was amazing. He found his teacher. So this was so special to him. But after about 5 years, and the establishment in Kyoto felt very threatened by Honen's teachings because they didn't want the common person, the everyday you and me person, to know about this. And it was very threatening. And so also some of the people in the imperial court were learning about this type of Buddhism, and they weren't sure, they felt very threatened by that. So they exiled Honen to one part of distant Japan and Shinran to another, and tried to break it up. So Reverend Matthew and I took now you can take a bullet train to this place called Joetsu, where Shinran was exiled. So we did about 2.5 hours on the Shinkansen. We were there. Shinran had to hike with his 2 helpers with these straw sandals and wooden backpacks. Who can carry a wooden backpack without totally killing your back? I don't know. Sounds terrible. And then they took a boat around several mountains. They had to go around the Japan Alps. They couldn't hike through it. They went around them. So they landed on this Gotama beach. Right there. Doesn't look so bad, does it? It looks actually really beautiful. So that's another view. Except you see the grass is it snows there a lot. They get a lot of snow. And the water is really, really cold. So it was probably a very miserable trip, and he probably landed there in the winter, because some of the pictures that we see is we had snow. So this day was very windy and cold, but we could get a feel for what it might have been like to land on that beach, and just with your 2 attendants and didn't know anybody, and you have to make your life over again. So that was Shinran with his 2 helpers landing on that beach. See, he has his nenju, and he always walked. That's, I think, supposed to be a ginkgo stick. Maybe that was later, though. That looks like bamboo to me. And we were freezing. Did you get a feel for it? Totally freezing. I still have that hat. But luckily, there is a memorial temple to Shinran just up from the beach, and there's like a whole site dedicated, and they have volunteers who work the memorial temple. And so when you're frozen, they were very surprised to see us, because this is not a touristy place. You have to really know how to get there, especially for foreigners. No, it's not easy to get there. So they were surprised but happy to see us. And there is Shinran in the temple. You can offer incense there. Here is us in 2015, our ordination year. Reverend Matthew and I were ordained in 2015. And we had some hot tea, which was very wonderful, and offered incense. And they were very kind. Those are the Japan Alps. Amazing. Like where Nagano is, the Nagano Olympics occurred there. It's beautiful. And they grow daikon as big as baseball bats. Huge farming community. Shinran had to learn how to farm, how to feed himself. He didn't know how to do any of that. He lived on the top of the mountain, and food was always brought up to them, because on the mountain you couldn't grow any food. It was too high. So he had to learn a bunch of stuff. And here is a Shinto. You know it's Shinto because of this interesting rope. This is very typical of Shinto shrines. They honor Shinran at this shrine because there was no Buddhist temple in Joetsu at that time. There were only Shinto shrines. And so Shinran would go here to pray to the kami, the gods, to help guide him. Because now he lost his teacher, Honen. It's at the opposite end of Japan. But he was determined to keep sharing the teachings, the Dharma. And he did. He would just either sit at this shrine or sit under a tree, and anybody who came up to him and asked a question, he would talk to them. So in Shinran's lifetime, he never had his own temple like this. That didn't happen. He only talked to people outside or went to their homes. So at one of the temples there, they have these paintings of the life of Shinran. And this is his ordination picture of him as a 9-year-old boy being actually shaven. To become ordained, you let go of your vanity, you let go of your identity, you're letting go, you're renouncing your part of yourself. That is Shinran at Rokakudo with the vision of Kannon Bodhisattva telling him, you're going to be okay. Go ahead, find Honen. It's okay to be married and still follow the Dharma. Here is Honen and Honen's students. There's Shinran. And they're having a debate in this one where Shinran said, well, my belief, my faith in Amida Buddha is the same as Honen's. And these students said, no, it can't be. Honen's up here. We're down here. And Shinran said, well, actually, even that fisherman and this shopkeeper's faith is the same as Honen's. And the students, no, that can't be. Well, Honen corrected them. He said, yes, that is a very good point. We are all fellow travelers. I am no better. I'm not up here. I'm with you. We're all here together. No better than anyone else, and we all have equal access to the Dharma. And your faith is your faith. It's yours to feel. So nobody's is more than anyone else's. And there's Shinran arriving in Joetsu. And here's Shinran probably in Joetsu teaching different people who would come to him, offering the Dharma. This is when he gets a little bit older and he starts writing. Then he wrote prolifically. He wrote the teachings of Kyogo Shinshu. He wrote the Shoshinge, our chant. He wrote many books and studied a lot. So he eventually had to move away from Joetsu because he needed to go back to Kyoto where the libraries were so that he could study and write. So that's what he did. This is one of his children. Shinran he did marry. He married a Shini and had about 9 children, I think. And his daughter Kakushini is most well known. She's the youngest, and she was with him at his death. And without Kakushini, because she created the memorial site for Shinran, which kind of started the idea of temples. So he had a memorial temple honoring him. So Shinran died at about the age of 90. And back then, in 1173, 12, I used to remember that date. Anyway, 90, that's old for that time. So, yes.
What's the significance of the woman
Here?
thing on her head? Is there any significance to that?
I think Kakushini, that was his daughter, was a follower of Jodo Shinshu. They covered their heads. Back then, they had.
Just the way
The men had shaved heads. The women didn't shave. They covered. I don't really know why they did that, but. And when Reverend Matthew and I were ordained, he had his head shaved. I could have had my head shaved if I wanted to, but I decided not. And I had short hair, so that was okay. If you had long hair, there were 2 other women being ordained. There were about 12 of us total when we were ordained, but the women had their hair in a ponytail and wrapped with a piece of white cloth. So this is the memorial in Kyoto for Shinran that Kakushini had built for him. So Shinran also traveled to the Kanto on the main Honshu. It's sort of in the middle of Japan before he went back to Kyoto. And so there are many temples that he founded, or there weren't temples then, but they said he walked with a ginkgo stick, and if he talked about the Dharma and planted his ginkgo stick, it would grow into a ginkgo tree, and then they would build a temple there. So there are many statues of Shinran. This is one of the temples, and some of our friends in Japan. Lots of them have those traditional gates. And I think that is the oldest gate in Japan. It's like 1,000 years old. And one of the oldest temples. And an electric gate with a Dharma wheel that separates out. And that's a ginkgo tree.
Do you have a special name for the sites where he planted the sticks, or is that
No, those are ginkgo trees. So Shinran carried a ginkgo stick. So we have a ginkgo tree in front of our temple honoring Shinran. but it doesn't look like that. Looks like a little stick. But no, it has leaves eventually. This is a desert, so it's hard to grow. But I don't know if I answered your question.
I was reading, I have a Buddhist art book, and it was just saying that where the Buddha went, the original tree that he chose,
Oh, the Bodhi tree.
the Bodhi tree, and that where he went, they planted
Yes,
trees that were cuttings from that.
yes, they did do that.
Special name for the sites that I
Right.
started with a B.
I'm not sure. Probably has to do with Bodhi, though, because they're Bodhi trees. But Bodhi sites, I don't know. Yeah. So this is from our lineage. The ginkgo tree is very special. And that's a very old one. Probably hundreds of years old. Yeah, it's amazing that they can survive. But they baby all their trees. They make them last as long as possible. I think that's the oldest gate. So he spent many years traveling and then eventually ended back in Kyoto. And then there are Jodo Shinshu is split into Nishi Honganji. Honganji means great vehicle. And Higashi Honganji. They're split because it got too big for the powers that be. So they split them in two in Kyoto. And then in about 1965, I think, Tokyo broke off from Kyoto. So our lineage is through Higashi Honganji, Tokyo. But we've been to the two temples in Kyoto. They're amazing, very special. Go to services there and chant the Shoshinge with them. It's really amazing. This is our home temple. So it's right in the, it kind of stands alone. It's not in a temple district. It's very close to like the restaurant supply district. So lots of different shops and things there. But this is a special washing station that you can use. It water that you wash your hands before you go in. Here's the inside, the main altar. So there's a bunch of tatami mats on the floor and then many, many chairs. There's an incense station here, and then here they hold memorial services out here on the tatami mats, and then they have different altars here. So this is the main Amida altar, and then there's the Shinran altar, and then the memorial altar for Otani Sensei's father. There's a closer picture of Amida Buddha. It's very beautiful there. You just feel so peaceful and connected. So that was in 2015, before Reverend Matthew got his head shaved, and he's kept his head shaved, so he just chose to keep doing that. That is Reverend Joe. He was very good friends with Dr. Matsunaga, and he is like he's an ordained priest, but chief administrator of all of the Higashi Honganji temples. So there are about 300 temples in Japan under the umbrella of this Tokyo Honganji temple, including us here in Little Reno, and Three Wheels Temple in London, England. So that's it. We're kind of the only American temple under this umbrella, which is pretty special. And here is a little film of our ordination. I want to move it back. How do I do that? There. Gives me chills looking at that again. Transported right back there. It was amazing.
Quote by Shinran,
It was his poem,
it said,
Do Not Wait.
life is transient,
Mm-hmm.
what was the rest of it?
Oh, I'd have to go back there. Life is,
Nighttime,
in the nighttime, the cherry blossoms may blow.
That was what the quote was on the ordination?
I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't know. I didn't memorize that part. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yes.
Is there a difference in the ordination process for men versus women?
No. Same. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very special, and it was transformational. When we started with our white robes, it was kind of in the dark. There were no candles lit. And then when we came back out with our black robes on, and Otani Sensei had just spoken to us words of wisdom about what becoming a priest might be like, then all the candles, that's why we have big flame candles here, because, you know, you can't get those candles here. So we made our own. But yeah, you're now awake. You're awake to this path that you're going to be traveling on. So our son made that. He loves making movie trailers, so it seems really dramatic. So he made that movie trailer of our ordination. So cute. Will did that. So, yeah. Any questions?
Is yours fluent in Japanese? Conversational?
No. Reverend Matthew, once we're there for a couple weeks, he studied it in college, so he knows like logistical Japanese, but we're not, and it's not necessary because they speak English and we can converse that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One last question. That
Yes.
town that he was exiled to, Joetsu,
Joetsu. Mm-hmm.
where is that if I look at Japan?
If you look at Japan, you go straight north past the Alps, and it's on the coast. So just go up north.
On the east or west side?
So northeast.
China or facing?
I'm really bad with maps.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Yeah.
I love the geography
Uh-huh,
there.
yeah. Yeah. I know it's north. And then they have a museum dedicated to Eishini, Shinran's wife, in Joetsu. And they built that in, I want to say 2010. It's very new. And it has enshrined there her actual letters, some of her letters, not all of them because they couldn't find them all, but about 20 letters from her and Kakushini to Shinran. So that's how we know about all of this, was from her letters. So they're specially encased there. But it's on this like infinity pool, and there's beautiful trees, and you can see the Alps in the background, and it's just amazing. If you ever find yourself in Joetsu, go to that museum, Eishini. Yeah. Any other questions about any of this? No?
I kind of have a question. That's
Sure.
kind of off what you do. In the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
the story of the Buddha who was beset by the bandits and the wild animals at one side of the river of fire and water,
Right.
the thin white path,
Yes.
and the native Buddha on the other side,
Yes.
made the choice, personal choice, to cross the river on the path. In our chants on Tuesdays and Saturdays, there is a chant that talks about being carried to the
Other
side.
shore. Mm-hmm. The other side.
Sort of omnipotent power. When I look at that,
She carries me. That one.
that I struggle with that one and don't usually chant it. You all do, because it sounds like direct opposition of personal choice, of finding your own way
Mm-hmm.
across the river as opposed
Right.
Your own Buddha nature, and that's what you find with your choice. So why is that chant in our program?
Because it's to Kanon Bodhisattva, so it's honoring what Kanon does for us, which is she is a gentle guide when we pass away from this world, going to the other shore, the Pure Land, whatever other realm you want to call it. She guides you there very gently. So it's the Bodhisattva vow that she took to guide sentient beings to nirvana. So other shore is nirvana, and so being guided so you're not lost.
So once you make a personal choice
Mm-hmm.
to walk the path,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
explains it a little bit better.
Good. You're welcome. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions come up? And we're here if you want to have a spiritual counseling meeting, cup of tea, we're welcome to do that. Just schedule a time. And then our chanting is on Tuesday evenings at 6, and Dharma Book Group on Wednesdays at 6, and Golden Light Meditation on Thursdays at 6:30. And then lots of other offerings here. If you look on our website, you can see the calendar of recovery groups and Tai Chi and yoga and all kinds of stuff. So you're welcome to partake in anything that interests you. So thank you all very, very much. Namondaps, namondaps, namondaps. All right.